Welcome to Accounting High.
I wanted to do something I was passionate about, and I love accounting. I'm a nerd when it comes to accounting. So now I'm in the process of continuing to grow and scale and focus on nonprofits and focus on as many disability advocacy nonprofits as I can.
Students, welcome back. In between classes here, I've got one of our special guest faculties with me today, Alyssa Lang, the workflow queen, to discuss something special that she's doing for her students over at her school. Take it away, Alyssa. What's up, homie?
Hey, hi, I'm so excited to be here and to share some awesomeness. From August 19th all the way up until August 23rd, we are hosting now our third round of our free Power to Breakthrough Bootcamp. We're going to be covering over 5 days, all about mindset, restructuring your offers for profitability and growing your team, systems. We're going to deep dive into KPIs and quality control in your firm. And the last day, which is one of my favorite topics, is becoming what I like to call work optional. You're removing yourself from the day-to-day of the business. It's a free boot camp. It's so much value and workbooks and daily prizes, cash prizes all the way up to $500.
So wait, you're saying this is a free boot camp made for firm owners to help them get out of the work, and there's a chance to win $500?
Yeah, every day is like different prize winners.
What's the catch here? This sounds too good to be true.
The boot camp is a good way for people to bridge that gap, that this is what it's like to work with us. This is how much we pour into things just in a free boot camp. Can you only imagine what it's like to work with us in a paid capacity?
Don't miss the free boot camp. It sounds awesome. We've got a great episode with Alyssa at Accounting High that you can check out. I encourage anybody to go log in, sign up for the Workflow Queen. What is the exact name of the boot camp?
Yeah, it's called the Power to Breakthrough Bootcamp. Find it on our website, or you can come over to our Instagram at Workflow Queen, or you can just click the link in the show notes to get access to the free bootcamp.
Dope. Check out the free boot camp, students. You're going to love it. Peace out, homies.
Welcome back to our class. It's the guide. Please take a seat. Step into this unique guidance session. Navigate with me. It's the capital S, oh yes, I'm fresh C-double-O-T. Y apostrophe O-K-R apostrophe, you see. Yeah, janitor Scott. Coming to you live from the closet with a bucket and a mop. So find a cozy spot. We all want financial freedom. ACCOUNTINGHIGH. Preach. Putting this course together. Sit back, relax, open your mind. Classes in session. Guidance class at Accounting High.
Introducing the star of our show.
Scotty and Questian Telka.
We're gonna have a problem here.
Question, thank you for joining us at Accounting High.
Thanks for having me.
Our students are so happy to see you. We're in our new Clubhouse AV room. It's our first live show at Accounting High. Welcome. Students welcome you. Questian Telka. Question, how do you ask the first question for an episode to a person whose name is Question? How did you end up with the name Question? Where did your parents come up with that?
That's definitely a good start explaining that one. It's actually my dad. It was his idea. And my uncle always says that it came from the phrase question authority, but my dad vehemently denies that and instead says that it is quest and Ian, which it is. And it's the Old English definition of Ian, which is God's gift. So it means search for God's gift. So
Ooh, how are you doing on that search?
he says it's all of the good things in life. And so, I think it happens as you go throughout life. You find the good moments. I think
So that's why you were put here, to find the good moments.
that's right.
Oh, wow. This is a good moment. That's awesome. Tell me about your good moment in accounting then. As you're a CPA as well,
I'm
right?
not. I'm an
You're
EA.
Not? EA. I'm
Yeah.
an EA as well. All right. We're in good company. Tell me about that moment that you realized that's what you were going to do.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me think. I kind of did bookkeeping work off and on for like the last 15 years, but I think I really got a passion for it. I actually started working at a nonprofit and was a director of finance and administration and was doing all
Where
of
was
the
this? What was the nonprofit?
in Chapel Hill Downtown Partnership. So, and actually they're still a client of mine today. So I started working with them and I just loved what I was doing. I got really good at QuickBooks throughout that process. And so that's kind of one area that
Was it QuickBooks Desktop?
no,
Did QuickBooks Online?
online.
All right.
Yeah. No desktop for me. And
All right. So you don't have that baggage to carry around.
no
with you.
baggage
Yeah.
to carry around or that. Yeah. I thought about it for a hot minute, and then I tried to log in a few times remotely, and I was like, this is not happening. This is not for me.
At your point in your career, was this like one of your first jobs? Was this like after working for a while, entering the workforce?
No. So, I mean, I kind of always tell everyone I'm a bit of a late bloomer. So I lived in Los Angeles for a long time and worked at Deloitte, but in operations, not in accounting. And I did some internal accounting work and I've tried a lot of school. I went to school to 3 different universities before I finally graduated. Throughout that process, I dabbled in it. That was my exposure to it, right? Was being at Deloitte. And then just life happened and I got sidetracked and I never finished. And then I moved to North Carolina. And after I moved here was when I had my oldest son and I took like a reprieve from work for a while.
And that was about 13 years ago?
He's 13 now. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, you say that. Yeah. So I started working at the Downtown Partnership after I had been here for a while. And that's when I really got back into it. And I kind of taught myself all of the accounting because I didn't have my degree yet. I actually didn't graduate until last December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
You kind of like, and that's how most people learn the books and learn the ropes is by doing the books and getting in there. So this was still paid, like some nonprofits or volunteer roles that they have people doing the books there. This was like still paid opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was a fully paid position. And, I was there for a long time. And then I continued to have people approaching me. It was a pretty visible role. So I was continuing to have people constantly approach me, asking me for help because there were a lot of local nonprofits that needed good bookkeeping and accounting help. And there was a bit of a lack of services, I guess. Or reliable services or whatnot. It took me a little while and I was finally like, you know what? I should probably start a business. And that's been 4 years ago now.
So that was one of the moments then. And you just saw an opportunity?
Yeah, I saw an opportunity and I also wanted to have flexibility and I wanted to be able to work remotely. I've always wanted to start a business. And interestingly, when I went to school years ago on one of my few attempts, I was in school for accounting and one of my goals was to have my own accounting firm. And so that's been something that I had wanted to do for a long time. And I had the opportunity to be able to do that. So when I started it, I asked the nonprofit that I was working for if they would continue in a different capacity as a client. And they did. And then once I started my business, I was not sure that I just wanted to do nonprofit accounting. So I kind of did a lot of general accounting work and taxes and realized that what I really love most about it is nonprofit accounting. It's the accounting work, not the tax work. And that's what I enjoy most.
What was it about the nonprofit versus just a regular standard small business?
I love the people. I love the missions. And, they're really invested in my experience. All of my nonprofit clients are really invested in their finances. They really care about, not saying that that other small business owners don't, but they're just really invested in their financial health, really interested in learning. And for me, it was also that fulfillment.
It's a way to tie the finances to some larger purpose.
Exactly.
Or something bigger than just lining somebody's pockets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So everybody feels a different sense of passion, I guess, toward everything they're doing if they feel close to the mission.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it's rare to find somebody working in a nonprofit that's there for the money,
right.
And that's how I feel about myself too. If I was really just fully in it for money, I wouldn't probably work.
Probably wouldn't have chose nonprofits.
Probably wouldn't have chosen nonprofits. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. So, but it also gives you and I'll use the word purpose again too, because you feel like what you're doing is not just helping the people that you're doing it for, but helping the people that they're helping.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So you can have a bigger impact on the world and make a bigger dent if you're working through that, because you're working on some of the most important aspects of running that nonprofit is the money, the books. Tell me about that story. And were you working for them on the side? Did you turn that into
That was the role that I had working in a nonprofit was the first client that I had. So I transitioned them into being a client. And then I had a variety of, goodness, I can't even remember, like, aside from that. I think it was actually a friend's business that was a for-profit business. And so
you didn't know you had a niche at the beginning. You just
No.
had an accounting firm.
I just had an accounting firm. I was kind of doing everything. I knew I loved it. And then it took me a little while. And then I figured out, I was like, oh, these are the things I don't love. And I started making that list, as we do once you start having a firm for a while, of all the things that I didn't love to do, and realized that I wasn't passionate about anything except for the nonprofit accounting. And I really wanted to be able to help these nonprofits focus on their missions and be, a support and help them be able to accomplish them. And I think there are a lot that don't have enough financial support or background. And so they struggle making decisions, and it's complicated. Nonprofit accounting it's not easy.
In the beginning, how did you brand yourself? How did you brand the firm?
That took me a while. I had a hard time trying to figure out a name.
Because you have a name.
I
Your
have a
name,
name.
like, can't you just call it Questian Financials or something like that?
I could have. Yeah, but then I woke up, like, all of my smarter moments are at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I wake up and it's just like I have an epiphany at 3 a.m. why it
And
has
it's
to
the
happen.
best idea in the world.
So it's the best idea in the world. Half the time I forget about it. But I woke up at 3:00 in the morning and was like, reconcile financials, the Q. And I didn't know at the time that I was going to, niche in nonprofit work, which is why it's reconcile financials and not reconcile nonprofit or something like
Sure,
that. But
sure. But you still have the Q, and you inserted somewhere in there your personal brand, because that's inevitably part of your personal brand.
exactly.
When we first met, you said that people have said to you, you look like a question. And I said, what does a question look like?
I wonder the same thing.
Question mark, maybe. You put your mark in there. That Q in there is part of that represents you, so you can take that with you. So you've taken something that's taxes, financials, bland and boring, and you've inserted your personality with it, reconciled, and that's just a cool phonetically way of saying it. Did you ever change anything about the branding to make it more nonprofit focused, or it's still the same?
It's still the same, but that's something I've kind of been tossing around, which I think we talked about that when I saw you last time, was trying to figure out if there's going to be some sort of change there, which I still TBD.
Sure. And it doesn't need to, because it's still attached to you and it's part of you. So tell me the makeup of the firm when you started. It's just you when you started, right?
It was just me. Yeah. And then I have 2 other people. So we're still pretty small.
Servicing how many clients?
Oh, gosh. I wasn't prepared for that question.
It's okay.
30-ish?
You got to be prepared for all the questions.
Yeah, right?
All the questions for questions.
It's like I should have counted
30-ish. Okay.
30-ish. Yeah.
You say you got 2 people on staff working for you, and all those clients, are they all nonprofits now?
I have 2 that are not.
2 non, but those are from old clients. Are you taking on any others, or is it you strictly working with nonprofits now?
Only nonprofits now.
Yeah. Okay. Are they similar in any types of areas?
They're starting to. Yeah. I really love to and have a passion for, and I can explain why in a second, for working with nonprofits that work in disability advocacy. I have a number of nonprofits that fit that greater niche. And, I have a 6-year-old who is amazing and was born with a syndrome. And that put me on that trajectory or path. So that's something that's really personally important to me.
So that taps into the larger purpose and the mission. And now you can really connect with a lot of these founders or a lot of the people at the nonprofits, because I'm sure they also have shared similar situations.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We have a lot of things in common. And it's great because there are so many things that I think about for him that I want for the future that I'm sure other parents are also thinking about, and that these nonprofits are doing. I'm actually on the board of a nonprofit in Chapel Hill that provides social and vocational opportunities for people of all abilities, but a lot of focus on bringing together neurotypical individuals with IDD, which is intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's, it's a big passion of mine. I always say that someday I would love to just potentially niche in that area But I love all of my nonprofit clients.
You're already
They're
on your
amazing.
way to doing that, though.
Yes.
Like, in a way, that's what's near and dear to your heart. That's what's top of mind, probably. And that's what you're surrounding yourself with. You've built a community around that, too, or at least you've become part of that community locally. So that obviously leads to more potential clients, but also more bonding. So you're filling the role of the accountant there, and you're probably meeting a lot of other people that can fill your cup, too.
Oh, yeah,
in a lot of ways.
absolutely. They're all just, a lot of incredible humans, which is, I feel I'm grateful.
But you put yourself in that position to be able to grow and do that. And I guess it doesn't make work as taxing on you when you are doing the taxes or things like that. It's not as stressful.
Yeah, that's right. So you have those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Like, what am I doing? Maybe I should change careers. But those moments, they're not as long lasting. They're shorter periods, I guess.
Yeah. Running the business of the day-to-day. You're a business owner now. How many years? It's 4 years running it. What are some of your aspirations, or have you reached some of the goals that you had hoped for?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have met some of the goals, finding a niche that was really what I wanted to work in.
The niche found you.
The niche found me. That's true. Yeah, it really kind of did. Yeah.
Because, again, that's a natural fit. A lot of times when people say, they stumbled upon this or they fell into it, is because of the other things, the surrounding circumstances that led them to that.
I think there are a lot of parts of my life that have kind of formed and come together. And there's been a lot of intention, but there's also been a lot of things like working at the nonprofit initially and then having a child born with, multiple disabilities and, it all kind of like funneling in this direction. And so all of the pieces have just kind of fallen into place.
And it's funny too, because a lot of those moments probably seem hopeless in the moment, but then it brings hope and it brings other opportunities and other things spawn and come out of that. And then you can only see it in hindsight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like my path would be so much different, I would imagine, had he not been born and we had not gone through the things that we've gone through with him and as a family. So, yeah.
Going back to the business now, was it your goal to grow this? Do you want to just turn this into a job that you don't have to work for somebody else?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I was teaching a webinar recently and I kind of hit on that a little bit. I went into it never expecting to grow a firm to the size that it is now and then to continue to want to scale it. I thought I'd be a solo practitioner. That's as far as I had thought. I had not.
You wanted the flexibility and you wanted to work remote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I wanted to do something I was passionate about, and I love accounting. I'm a nerd when it comes to accounting. So that was really kind of as far as I had thought. And so, now I'm in the process of just continuing to grow and scale. And as I mentioned, focus on nonprofits and focus on as many disability advocacy nonprofits as I can and kind of see what happens.
So you laid your foundation, and now it's time to start looking at some of these other things to, as you said, scale and to continue to grow and systematize things and all the stuff we like to talk about on the show here. But it's also really fun to finally have some clarity. You're probably at a turning point here where it sounds like you have achieved what you kind of set out to do, but now this is the next thing that you're going to climb. This is a whole new journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nonprofits, as part of that, is we run around in our circles in the accounting space, and there's a few others that have nonprofits as niches. It's very missional, and the things that they do are very unique too, and the things that they can do to promote. So have you considered part of your personal brand? Is it going to be aimed at nonprofits, or you've done webinars and you're speaking now too? Are you going to aim at other accountants as part of your personal brand?
Both.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I think that's the goal. I mean, I love speaking and I love teaching, and I've kind of found a passion for that where I didn't have one or know it was there before. And now that I've kind of started it, I really love it. So both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does that look like when you're teaching accountants? What are some of the things that you've done so far or thought about?
I've taught a webinar for finding your niche and, using your values to help you determine what that niche might be. And I have taught on multi-currency for nonprofits. So that was more technical. And then recently I taught based on empowering bookkeepers with kind of some recommended tech stack ideas.
I saw recently you did a retreat with Misty.
Yes.
Her TOPS program. I was
Yeah.
in that last year, and that did wonders for me, for myself, getting past some of my insecurities beyond speaking. Tell me some of the things you learned going through her course.
My gosh, like this is me being totally vulnerable, but before I took her course, I couldn't even speak in a Zoom call hardly. I was so nervous and intimidated that even getting in a Zoom meeting and trying to speak up with other people just terrified me. So
And now look at you. You're recording in person at Accounting High.
that's right. I know. It's come a long way. So yeah, that was a big deal. And one of the things I went into that course asking to be able to get more comfortable with was I'm a total introvert. I mean, it may not seem that way, but it's the way it is. It's the truth. And getting more comfortable approaching people at conferences and just talking and having conversations. And I don't even think about it now. So yeah, it did wonders for me too.
Yeah, it makes you feel more comfortable with yourself, and then you can bring yourself to the table. You don't have to hide behind trying to be somebody else or trying to be what you think others will approve. You can just be you. And I think that lends itself to being in front of potential clients or other accountants. The thing with that is it's also like trauma bonds. For you, it's like that with clients, but also with accountants. Accounting is our trauma bond. When we get together at conferences, we get to all let some of that out. That's what people tapped into at Tax Twitter. That's what I see online. And now that's what I see in person at the conferences. Tell me a little bit about that. How could you relate?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You go to a conference and nobody at home understands what you're talking about when you have an accounting situation or issue, or need to vent something, or just even run an idea past somebody and brainstorm. Family's just like, yeah, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't want to know what you're talking about. And so you go to the conference and you're able to have those conversations and people can relate to you. You build your network and friendships that way. And it also helps you to relax, or it does me anyway, relax, let loose a little bit, and have that common bond. Feel like there's people who understand me.
Right. You found your people too.
Found my people.
Not just that they understand you, but you understand them.
Exactly.
And you can see them, and you can offer more and help more, just like you can with the nonprofits. It's these circles. Somehow accounting found you. You had that spark where you wanted to have an accounting firm at one point while you were in school, and now you're doing it. But it's got its hold on you now. I don't think that you're going anywhere.
No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm
Yeah.
stuck.
But let's do another double click on some of this nonprofit stuff. I don't like to get too technical or too tactical on the show. Some of the things that you're pointing out, like multi-currency, everybody deals with multi-currency if they have clients overseas. What is it about nonprofits, or what's specifically about that?
It was specifically for QuickBooks, and there's some ways that you can track restricted net assets in QuickBooks. It's Megan Tarnow's method.
Mm-hmm. MGT.
And if you use that, there are some things that you can and can't do in QuickBooks with multi-currency. So teaching on that, there's some common transactions that we talk about and how to handle those that would be more nonprofit specific.
I mean, as with any niche, there are specific things about the nonprofits that you are going to have to do that become common across all clients. So you become better fluent in that, and your team, obviously, because they're dealing with those similar issues across all clients. Those are some of the things that you can share with accountants too. So the accountants that feel like they want to get into nonprofit accounting. The other thing about a niche too is you can solve these unique problems and help the clients. So do you have any ideas of how you're going to cater your marketing toward that, or possibly start attracting new clients?
This is not my strong area.
No, that's cool. That's cool. We could do deep dive.
In a couple of months, I'll start onboarding new clients, and then I'm going to be focusing more on, do I do this rebrand, which is, all of these things that are kind of going on.
If you were to go back to when you first started getting your first clients, it was the circles that you were in and the people that you knew, and that kind of led to that. I think you already know the watering holes of where these people would be paying attention to, where these nonprofits, where they're paying attention to, and that's where you can position yourself when you're ready for it. You want to get to be where they are and get in front of them. And if you have this brand, and it could be very missional too, and what you do could be directly tied to that. So as part of your marketing, you're paying attention, you're at the same places.
The entire time my firm has been in existence, it's all been referral work. I actually get a lot of work from auditors because nonprofits have an annual audit, most of them, or a lot of them. And so I get a lot of referral work that way. And so I'm definitely rethinking or starting to think about, okay, what does that look like when I'm spending more time marketing? And I feel like there's a couple places, as you mentioned, that nonprofits tend to hang out. One is YouTube because there's a lot of DIY and nonprofit accounting, and YouTube is a good DIY place. And I'm kind of focusing there and LinkedIn a little bit.
So let's talk about that. It took us about a half hour to get this whole setup here ready. I have a ton of equipment and I have aspirations to do YouTube content. I can never record anything myself or get to doing that. I always like doing interviews and things like that. Maybe potentially that could be an easy way, because you also mentioned you have equipment and things and the aspiration to do content. Maybe you could start a show and start interviewing some of these founders and create a missional show. And then at the end you say, we can do we can do your accounting and your books.
I love it. Yeah, it's a great idea.
I don't know. That was an idea that what you could do, though, is if you like those conversations, I know you say you're an introvert, but once you get to know somebody, you can really have a deeper conversation.
Of course.
And create a space to be able to do that. And then when you're ready to turn on the faucet and grow, it's there. And then it becomes something that is maybe fulfilling for you because you like the conversation. I don't know. I can maybe relate to that because I think that's what I'm doing here. That's like part of what this is. There's probably a path that you're on that you may end up starting a nonprofit too.
That's so funny that you say that, because that's definitely that's a long-term aspiration. Yeah.
What does that look like in your vision board here?
I haven't figured out exactly what it's going to do yet, but we have a theme, right? So it's probably some sort of disability advocacy work, but what it looks like beyond that, I haven't quite figured that out. But yes, I feel like when you have the financial background and then you also, have a strong sense of the governance piece just from working inside of a nonprofit previously, it's a good combination for starting a nonprofit. And it's probably crazy, but it's probably something that'll happen at some point.
Aren't the best ideas the craziest?
Yeah. Always.
And it's always the funnest stuff too. Yeah, the scariest. But it's like the whole idea of building something. And that's sort of like what we got into your turning point right here. You've built something to the point where it's recognizable to you from when you first had the idea. I want something that I have the flexibility. I can spend more time with my kids. I can do other things. And also you're independent now. You've got a business that you can't get fired from, or if you're having an off day, you don't have to really answer to anybody else.
Exactly.
I have a feeling, though, as you step into this next phase of it, you may not have as much freedom if you're looking to scale.
I already feel that way.
Tap into that. What does that mean?
That means I thought, I'll have flexibility. I'll take days off. I'll just have a random Friday where I won't do anything. And it's a lot of work. But when you're passionate about it, you just find yourself doing it. You find yourself doing it unintentionally.
You're always thinking about it.
Thinking about it. Yeah.
You can't escape your own thoughts and that. So they may feel like you're working 24/7.
Yeah.
So you can't be doing something that you resent. Later, it feels unrecognizable to you.
No, and I think I've learned throughout life, I follow my gut, I follow my intuition, and it's taken me this way. And I continue to look at it and try to reevaluate, like, what am I doing? Where am I at? Where do I want to go? I'm not necessarily somebody that makes goals and like writes them down and then I go and fulfill them. I wish I was good about that, but I'm always considering what I'm doing and reevaluating. And I've never looked at it and gone, I didn't make the right choice. I'm on the wrong path.
Right. Well, and that sort of goes back into the whole accidentally things, and things fall into place, because if you are following your intuition or your subconscious or your gut, then you're moving toward that path that you would have written down if you consciously thought about it. If you consciously made that goal and said, I'm going to do this, the same path, if you even had to think about it, because those decisions that you end up saying yes to, or the things that you end up doing, are naturally the things that you were more inclined to want to do anyway. Do you find yourself running into that with the firm where you could potentially have to put the brakes on? Were there any client that you maybe said no to?
Yes, I say no a lot. I want to work with people that are good people, which is generally not hard to find when you're looking at nonprofits as clients. want to do specific kind of work. And part of this restructuring, well, I guess I don't know if I'd call it a restructuring, but reorganizing of the way that we do things is in our client selection process. And part of that is following nonprofit best practices, but also standardizing our processes so that it's easy for my team and myself to all pick up where we need to and do the work. And so very intentionally choosing clients that are either, well, they're hardly ever set up how I want them to be set up. So reorganizing things.
Yeah.
That's right. Reorganizing things for them, setting them up, and then in the practices that we know are best practices, and then working with them after that. And so they generally have to be willing to do that.
Okay. Like you said, it's not hard to find the good people. And that's probably a big filter right there is working. I mean, whenever I ask my team, I don't have a niche at all at my firm. And I ask them what types of clients they like working with most. It's always the type of persona. And maybe if you could pick an industry that has that persona more prevalent, the only one I could think of that has a similar persona has got to be nonprofits, because they're all missionally based. And you're running with something that's bigger than yourself with those in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that's one of the two big things was helping with missions. And then also it was, like you said, a natural filter for the type of personalities and people that I wanted to work with. And it was really important to me. I had quite a few clients when I was not working, when I was taking clients that were for profit. It was like a constant struggle to get information. And, it didn't really seem like they cared about their finances. And that could have been a selection process on my part. It could have also been, if they're the owner, they didn't have as much oversight as an ED, as an executive director does with a board. So, but then also they really care about the mission. And so they want to make sure that they can afford to keep going.
So what are the size of these nonprofits? What's the rough size that you're working with?
The largest one I have is probably $3 million. I do have a couple of smaller ones. Most of them are over $750 in revenue.
And what is it you're doing for them? Are you doing the 990 or the taxes?
Nope, we're not doing taxes. We do a lot of monthly bookkeeping and accounting work. I do a lot of projects. I only have 2 that I do payroll for. So there's a lot of complexities to recording the payroll. So we do that piece, but I don't run payroll typically. Only 2 do I actually run payroll for. And one is the nonprofit I'm on the board of.
Are you setting up a lot of the integrations with the payroll to make sure that it's pulling in correctly? Yes. So you don't have to actively manage it, but you have to make sure that there's certain things.
So as of yet, I think there's one company, and I can't remember the name of it, and I haven't had the chance to check out this piece of technology yet. There aren't any that integrate in the way that they need to completely to get functional expense allocated appropriately for payroll. So there's still a lot of manual work that goes into getting those entries. So none of my clients have direct integrations with payroll systems for their payroll. It all has to be put in, and so that's it's a complicated process.
I can plug my parents' software. They have a payroll ledger, or it's Fast Fund is the program. What theirs is all integrated together. It's the fundraising, it's the accounting, like the GL and the payroll, all in one platform, all made to be restricted, unrestricted. I've heard all these words. The funds go in certain areas, but executive director's salary has to work. A certain percentage of it has to go into this because it's allocated at overhead. It's just like you would allocate payroll if you need to show up in different accounts or locations, allocate certain percentages or things like that. Are we talking about similar?
That's right. Yeah. For the 990, payroll has to be allocated by functional expense in general and administrative fundraising and programming. And then beyond that, you might break it down if they really want to get an idea of an actual program's costs, for example, and the amount of time that employees are spending on a specific program. So yeah, it can be pretty granular if you want it to be.
And it's my understanding that the only way to do this in QuickBooks or Xero is to use their location function. And you're still going to, at some point, need to export it to a spreadsheet to tinker with it.
So we generally, I'm not sure about Xero because I haven't used Xero, but in QuickBooks, we use classes for this. And location can be used for tracking restricted net assets with and without restriction.
the cross between classes and locations, you can probably figure it out or kind of get it right in your setup. And that's why it's really important to get these set up correctly, because it's a mess if you don't. And you're still going to have to manually do it on a spreadsheet at a certain point.
Exactly. Google Sheets, spreadsheets.
Yeah. So, and that's what we know in accounting. We always have to do that. And a lot of these new apps that are coming out are supposed to be solving these problems. And sometimes they create new problems because you've got this integration and now it's stopped working or this automation stopped. What's your software stack look like beyond QuickBooks?
QuickBooks, obviously G Suite, Gusto for payroll, Anchor for
Payments.
Yep. There's so many. I have Keeper. Oh my gosh, I can't forget Keeper. Keeper's amazing.
Shout out to Keeper.
Yeah.
They did pretty well in our tournament this year.
Yeah, that's right. And I was using Dext, but we're actually transitioning to Keeper Receipts this month. So
Oh wow. So Keeper's doing receipts now too. That's going to be very useful. So how did you find Keeper?
Actually, this is kind of a funny story. When I was pretty early on in my firm, Ben reached out to me when he was doing testing for Keeper. So like the very early beta days of Keeper, I met Ben and helped answer some questions about what kind of things we'd want in software.
How did he find you? Was it through a
I don't
community?
know.
Or...
That's a good question.
They have a cult following. People love everybody that uses Keeper out here. And it's just getting better year after year too. It's not like, and this was just like the little engine who could. I think I found him at Appy camp. It's like fanfare the next year. And it was really, we see this from the inside because the tournament, they're getting a crazy amount of nominations. It was like they got more nominations than any other app next to Jason Staats.
Just makes life so much easier, especially when you're doing monthly closes and reviews for clients there. It's,
Is it an assistant or is it just keeping tasks oriented?
So, I forgot. I also use Karbon and Right Tool. Keeper.
Another tournament favorite.
Yeah, right. I love my technology.
Yeah.
So for Keeper, it integrates with QuickBooks, so you can communicate with clients on specific transactional questions. So rather than sending a list of questions in a spreadsheet or, God forbid, an email, you can send them all through Keeper. Then there are reports that you can either create or they have them kind of built in, and there's an integration as well. So one of the couple that we use are transactions without class and transactions without location, because all of our transactions need to have a class and a location. So we pull those reports, and then the W-9 and 1099 process in there makes life so much easier. So those are my favorite parts.
So they've taken most painful moments of an accountant's life and fixed it.
Yes.
It's like how UnCat won the first year of the tournament. And it's like they were built just on the uncategorized transactions problem in QuickBooks. And they built an entire tool on that. And now they have receipts as well. Keeper and UnCat are very similar in what they do now at this point. I think they started in different spaces, but then they all kind of blended together. And they're solving the main core problems that we have as accountants, and it's communication problems and getting information from clients. And if you can make that easier for the client to respond, and the client's probably having fun doing it, like they have a nice format and easy, like click and just a few things. They don't have to go to different places to do different things.
Get a sense of accomplishment. They can check a bunch of things off their list.
Yes.
I don't know. It gives me a sense of accomplishment.
Doesn't it? When you get that email box to zero and things like, they still get alerts or other things within email that tells them to go into the portal.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, the client does. Yes. So you can send an email to them that will tell them to, and you can set up a notification when they answer questions for yourself or your team too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that. And they started out as accountants too. He was at an accounting firm, Ben.
Okay.
Before.
That makes sense. I didn't.
He looks like an
realize,
accountant, right?
Yeah.
But it's just.
It's the mold.
Yeah, for sure. Let's start talking a little bit then about what the future holds. And then we'll do a revisit, come back your senior year at Accounting High. At this turning point now, it's going to be a lot more work, but it's also new opportunities and new things. How are you going to know what to say no to when it comes to these new accounting opportunities? Because that could be taking out your time from growing the firm.
Yeah, it is. It's a difficult balance. That's what I'm kind of transitioning a lot of work to my team we're in that process now.
Shout out
so
to
that
Tara on your team.
shout out to Tara. Transitioning a lot of that work to her, and we've almost fully done that. And then I'm really focused on the reports and the restricted fund tracking, making sure that that's all accurate. You know, I have some clients that have government grants, so I'm still keeping all of that close, but then also trying to do more teaching. So you're right. It kind of pulls you in both directions, but that's why you grow.
Yeah. Well, and that's why you can elevate yourself. And when you have people that can do the things you were doing, then you've created this new free time to do the next thing.
And we always fill it, don't we?
We always fill it. We always fill the free time. And it's okay, though, because if you're filling it with things with purpose and things that fill you up, then it doesn't feel like work still. So as long as you keep doing the things that are going to help you grow, because you get uncomfortable when you start talking and speaking in front of people. And once you get past that, then all the things that made it hard before are easier. It doesn't become as much of a burden, and you can just show up and speak. Flexing that muscle and building that muscle, it becomes another skill that you can continue to develop.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And it does. It's a process and it takes time. And you, just like anything else, we're always like, or at least I'm always, I think all of us are trying to learn and grow and fine tune. So you just get better at it, like you said.
Yeah. And our ambitions can sometimes get the better of us because then we put too much on our plate.
Guilty.
So, yeah. What opportunities are worthwhile and which ones maybe aren't worth it? And that's one thing that I'm kind of starting to learn too, because everything seems great when somebody asks you to do something. And then when you look at your calendar later and you got all these things laid out, it's like, how many of them are actually contributing toward what I want to do?
It's true. Yeah, you have to try and prioritize.
Yep.
I always say yes to too many things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but that's one thing that we can learn. And I think when you have, that's the moral of the story here. When you have a larger purpose and you're driving towards something bigger, and it's easy to know what to say yes to. So anything that's related to something missional for you, you don't ever have any second thoughts. And there's no regrets into doing this thing because you couldn't do that. That's important for our students to remember as well. Let's give our students one piece of walking advice.
My advice is, and goes back, we were kind of talking about this, is to trust your instincts, not somebody else's, but trust your own instincts, trust your own gut. You know what's best. And if you follow that, of course, take advice from people who've gone through what you're going through before and listen to it. But after you absorb that and process it, like really trust your own instincts, because I don't feel they don't steer you wrong generally.
You know why? It's because you're creating your own path. When you're following your own instincts, you're creating your own path. And if you do that, then you're not following somebody else's shoes and footsteps. So there's no way that you can resent and regret the path that you created for yourself. You can be proud of that path that you forged forward. That's dope. Create your own path.
Yeah.
Nice question. And don't question it too. Right? Create your own path and don't question it at the end.
Not too much anyway, right?
Dope. Yeah, not too much. All right. Class dismissed. Peace out, homies.